being here.
Thanks for having me. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope my brain can wake up enough to like be cogent and coherent this morning, and all the vocab words. We're here at 10th Planet Nashville. Been hanging out here for a couple weeks. Andrew and I have been literally just doing jiu-jitsu while we've been in town. It's been like a little insane. And of course, I was excited to see that there was a 10th Planet here. And you guys kind of just came out here, right? So this is the new home base of your whole operation.
This is the new home base for us. Yeah.
Because you were out of, like many folks of the California exodus, you have joined the rest of the country now out here. So you were in Stockton, right?
Yeah.
This? Yeah.
I was in Stockton for 43 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, we were there for quite a while, and then we decided sometime during 2020, we kind of took a look around and thought, man, we want to live in America again.
Yeah.
So
how does it feel?
Good time. It feels amazing, actually.
That's got to be a hard decision, though. Man, you have a long history there.
Yeah. Oh, it was very, very hard. It was probably the most difficult thing that we had to undertake, because it wasn't just us moving. It was also keeping a business intact out there, getting somebody set up to, run it and be operational.
So who runs it now? One of your former students then?
So one of my students, Sam Espinola, he's the head instructor there. Great. So I work with them. I try to go out every 12 weeks, somewhere around there. So visit, stay for a weekend, teach, private lessons. It's just like a whirlwind of a weekend, get on a plane and come back home. Yeah. It's pretty neat, though. To be honest with you, if you told me 15 years ago and I was sitting in a cubicle writing code, hey, you'll get to do this in 15 years, I would have said, okay, that sounds good. Let's do it. Yeah, I like it. It's busy, but I like it.
So I got to admit, I know very little about you, which is kind of rare for me. I feel like I usually know a lot about my guests, but because we've had so much jiu-jitsu to do here, I mean, we've come out, like, I feel like I've gotten to know you through doing jiu-jitsu, but I don't know about your background. So you ran or still run the Inside BJJ podcast?
So, I mean, it's never been officially put to bed, but it's been on hiatus for a little while.
Sure.
Yeah. And my co-host is my cousin, Big MF, big shout out to Big MF. And, we do them as we can. Sometimes, like now it's kind of like when the spirit moves us, we do it.
Yeah.
And we've also done shows where when we were done, like, I'm not going to publish that. That was just a conversation for us.
Yeah. Well, I think podcast that's fine with me. Like, podcast to me should be entirely self-serving. Like, do you enjoy doing it or not? Like, if I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, because then it doesn't come across right. Yeah. Unless your podcast is about something.
Yeah.
It's a murder mystery. Well, then that's different. Because you got to go do your murder mystery.
Right. You have to put in work. As opposed to, I think, our style of podcast, which is like, let's bullshit for an hour.
Right.
And then somehow people listen to it, which is great. There's entertainment there, I suppose.
I think so. There's something about putting AirPods on or headphones and like having someone else's voice in your ears while you're doing something else that kind of transports you there.
I have been that way since I don't know, maybe high school, maybe college, where I think it was really as soon as Bluetooth headphones became an accessible thing. Yeah, I haven't taken Bluetooth headphones off since that time in my life. Like, I really have a hard time living in just silence. Like, there's got to be something going. There's got to be a podcast going. There's got to be a book going. Or if I'm being honest, there's got to be like a show going or something.
Something
in
the background.
Yeah, there has to.
Yeah, I think people do that with the television at home still too. They just put something on in the background, while it's there. I think my love for that voice, having an extra voice going on, came from listening to baseball on the radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and just kind of listening to it, and then listening to like morning show sports radio out of the Bay Area, being a big time baseball fan growing up. Like, that was my thing that I always listened to, and I got used to hearing like some people in a booth somewhere in a studio talking, and it became very intriguing to me to like, wow, that's kind of interesting stuff. So
yeah, I don't know what it is for me. It definitely pacifies the super ego that's talking in there, though. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's like, I'm gonna need you to shut up and let's learn something. But then again, like, I have a really hard time doing anything where I don't feel like I'm learning something, if that makes sense. Like, I can't play video games. I will, like, Andrea and I will play a video game for 5 minutes, and I'll be like, I am so bored of this. It's just me. I have to be doing something like that I can classify as productive in some way.
Sure.
which is a problem. Like, it would be nice to relax sometimes.
Yeah.
But podcasts ride that line between, like, you're somewhat being entertained, but then if you're listening to the right ones, you're probably picking up a good amount of knowledge too.
It's almost, I think I get what you're saying. I really do. I'm not a big video game guy for the same reason. Sometimes for the novelty of it, my kids will have a game on and I'll sit down and play for like 12 minutes, and then at a certain point I go like, okay, what am I doing? I want to go do something different.
Right.
I want to go learn
the right
something.
game is fine too.
Yeah.
Like, if it's social enough.
Right.
I mean, like, growing up, the big one when I was in middle school and high school was like Halo, you know, and you could have your buddy bring over his Xbox, and then you could tie the two Xboxes together, and now we have 8 people playing Halo together. And that's a different thing, I feel, than, I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe for some of the people who really love playing live online games, it's the same. They're talking on the...
They are. There's
the
a social
microphone.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got out of the whole video game thing way before that, you know, like way before that. But it is a novelty. It's fun, but I like to listen to podcasts where I think I'm learning something. You know what I mean? And sometimes if it's just entertaining, I like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, not super big on like the fictional stuff that they put out there. It's just not my thing, man. You know, I'll read some fictional books once in a while, but mostly I'm trying to read about other stuff and learn.
Yeah. I mean, I like the mix. I don't listen to any fiction podcasts or anything like that, but then again, I don't listen to the, like, what is it? Is it Serial or is it the other one? Is Serial the one that everything's in order?
Something like that, yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't listen to that one either.
Yeah, those types of podcasts, I'm sure they're great. I bet they're awesome. I've heard of them, you know, like the Dr. Death one that was a big deal, you know, and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know, because I use them as background noise to do other stuff.
Sure.
So if it's something I have to pay attention to, then I'm not finding the point of that.
I'm a big fan of listening to other people's conversations. Not that sounds terrible, right? Like, I work for the KGB. There's a voyeur
aspect to that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't mean it like eavesdropping, but I mean just I'd like that part of podcasting that, you know, when it is just a real conversation between two people and you get to kind of just listen in on it, and they're not really having the conversation for your benefit per se, even though you do benefit from it. I'd like that the most.
Yeah.
I think there's some real value in people being candid with each other.
Well,
and just talking.
Candid's the key word, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the best ones are really when people feel like they're taking down the public, you know, persona.
Sure.
And they're actually being themselves. And I think so for a while, I hadn't seen, I didn't know anything about Howard Stern for a long time. And then I watched, God, the name of the movie's gone because it's morning. It's a pun on being naked. What is it?
Oh, it's Howard Stern's Private Parts.
Private Parts. Thank you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Private Parts. And when I finally saw that movie, I was like, oh, I so get this idea, the idea that comes out in that movie at some point where he's like, I'm just going to put it all out there.
Sure.
I'm just going to not hide anything.
Right.
And that was why people really loved him, you know, and that's why it worked. And I think you still get that with podcasts. But it's hard in this world, man. It's hard to be able to say just whatever it is you think. And the funny thing is you can lead the sentence with, I believe this is a flawed thought, but here's what I think. And it still won't really matter to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it's nice to try to push yourself to be more open and honest about some of the things you think. Podcasts are good for that.
That's been difficult for me, actually, to I kind of get sketched out about, well, what if somebody takes something that I said out of context, or, you know, I don't know everything, dude, you know, but like would be doing podcasting for myself for fun. It's not like I'm getting rich off of it, you know, like I'm just doing it to have cool conversations and to talk to people that are interested. Probably the same reasons why you're doing it and many people are doing it. And when I started feeling like, man, but like, what if my opinion's different? And then somebody gets upset. Then it got a little more tricky. Yeah. And I became more private about it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And you look at, you know, but not to harp on that point because, come on, everybody's talking about that right now. Everybody's upset because they can't
a lot of that's
say
egotistical, too.
Yeah, well.
Like, everyone cares what I think.
Right,
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares. But the hard part really, I think, is for oneself because, like, if you go listen to old episodes, you're like, God,
I can't even do it.
You know what I mean?
I can't do it.
Yeah. It'd be like, I get to have a conversation with the high school version of me. I don't really want to do that.
It's so embarrassing.
That's rough. But you have to just go with the process and be like, okay, I was who I was then. The cool part for me is having guests on multiple times because I can have grown between those conversations. And We could talk about new things. We talk about the things we were wrong about and be like, oh no, I had a new thought on that.
Yeah. And some people, when you meet them, one conversation's not enough. You're like, oh, we just got into certain things.
Right.
And then, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've said before, though, for me, podcasting is really an excuse, like in most cases, was two things. One is to take someone who I don't know that well, but would love an excuse to get to know better. We get to just do that. Sure. And then all of a sudden there's a real value to it, which is wild to me. And the second thing is, as traveling full time, I don't have the excuse always to like approach someone and be like, hey, I think we should have a beer on your porch. But all of a sudden, that's exactly what ends up happening. It's like, let's go have a cigar. And then that's what we do. A complete stranger who I found on Instagram, and I'm like, all right, you do something interesting to me, so let's have a cigar on your porch. And that's exactly what we do.
It's a good opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse.
It is, but I mean, it's a good one because it's a win-win for both people typically, and they get to do something fun. A lot of people think it's fun to be a guest on a podcast and they've never done it before, or maybe it's something they've been wanting to do. Mm-hmm. So they kind of get to scratch that itch, and then you get to meet somebody. And then the really cool thing really is the relationships that come out of it later. Yeah, 100%.
And the other thing is, if you're someone like me who always has a crazy thought turning around, like there's something that I'm working on, the only person that's going to be annoyed by that thought all the time is my wife, and I'm just going to nonstop harass her with my thoughts on this thing.
Right.
And that's just untenable.
Yeah.
Like, did you see? Okay, so there was this great SNL sketch a while back that was. It was like Man Park, I want to say is what they called it. No, and it was it was like a dog park where women take their husbands. Uh-huh. And so you see all these dudes, and there's like one guy who's a little shy to go talk to the other guys, like how your dog might be shy to go play with the dogs. And there's other guys that get together and they just start listing things guys talk about. And so one of them's like Avengers, and the other guy's like Bitcoin. And then that's just like the whole conversation.
Yeah.
Just all these bro topics, and you need an outlet for that, man.
Sure.
Your wife does not care.
Right.
Like there's nothing to glaze her eyes over more than I say the word blockchain. Like it's like what?
I know. Oftentimes I'll start talking about something that I'm reading, but I think for talking like helps me kind of learn it in a way. I'm like, can I explain this? Unfortunately, my wife is the first person I usually try to explain it to, which means I totally screw it up.
You do it wrong.
Seem like a moron.
Right.
And she won't even stop playing Candy Crush. She's just like, okay, okay. Yeah, you're still working on that? Come back to me when you get that figured out.
What my problem is that this one remembers it. So if I tell her something that I've learned, so like that's a good example. Is I started learning about the blockchain, not for the same bro-ish reasons. We can get into that because I think it's fascinating. We should. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about no, I'm just kidding. So I'll tell her something that I've learned about this whole system and Web3 and decentralized internet and stuff. Then she'll actually remember that. So then when I've learned how wrong I was later, she'll be like, but I thought it was like this. And then I have to deal with the embarrassment of being like, no, I was wrong about that one. I learned a different thing. Right. And I'm just like, why do you remember all of those things? Like, it doesn't matter when I'm saying them. It doesn't matter.
Right. I'm just working through those, honey.
Yeah. She locked it in, and then I feel bad because I'm like, no, I explained that wrong because I was wrong. And then there's a lot of backtracking to be done.
Yeah.
And then she still cares somehow, and I don't know why.
Well, that's what makes it work, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's not that way with jiu-jitsu now because now she does jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So when I started and I was telling her all these things, like, it was fine that I was wrong about all of them because now she's doing it herself and sees all the things.
Right.
So
jiu-jitsu is one of those things, too, where when you really kind of get bit by the jiu-jitsu bug, it's hard to not really talk about it, and it's completely asinine to people who don't do jiu-jitsu. From the outside, it looks like you've been taken over by an alien. That's like, all they want to do is this martial art. Like, my mom could not understand it when I first started doing jiu-jitsu. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're a grown man. You have children. It's not necessary. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Just can't explain it.
You can't. You can't. And I want everybody around me to do it. And I can't explain that either.
Yeah, and they don't want to do it.
They don't want to do it.
Hardly anybody around you wants to do it. In fact, they think you're weird for doing it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and I post, I'll post all those photos on my story and stuff, and they're like, so he goes and wrestles around with a bunch of other dudes. That seems weird. I don't know, why would he do that? And I think I'm cool, you know.
Yeah.
I think like that looks sick.
Yeah, and you can't understand why people don't do it. I have nothing in common with these people.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I do because we've all been there. Like, it's just fear of that new thing.
Yeah.
And in this case, that new thing is something that is so, like, it sucks so much, you know?
It's very difficult.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
It's so difficult. Every day sucks. But to not, I think the real thing is that people just don't see the other side of that, where they're like, what else do you do in life that like seems really difficult? Like, anybody who has a kid, it's like, okay, surface, that seems really difficult, but you can't tell me that you don't love that. Right. Surface, though,
sure,
it seems like that sucks. Sure. But I know that makes your life, you know, full of meaning or whatever. So, you see, I can't even describe that one because I don't have a kid. So like, I guess there's meaning there.
No, for sure. And I think jiu-jitsu is one of those things that, like, it was so difficult for me. It was so hard. And I couldn't fake my way through it.
Yeah.
I couldn't be like social to the right person, or like, you know, ingratiate myself somehow. I'll clean the mats every day. It's like, you still suck.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't change. You could be super duper nice. You still suck at jiu-jitsu, you know? And I liked that part of it. I really did. It was super honest in that sense. And so it was very attractive to me.
Yep.
And it was at a time, I think for me, it was at a time when I didn't have any friends outside of my kind of like church group that I had been brought up in and that had grown up in and been a part of. So it was like, whoa, there's like this whole other like world of people that I'm starting to meet and become friendly with, and like a whole world that I started to get sucked into. It was very interesting.
And I think it has a new connotation now, to speak from my experience doing it in this time period, in that it's a qualifier in a way, because traveling around, I could meet people in a million different ways, but there's literally only one that almost guarantees I will meet cool people who understand some of the same things that I understand.
Sure.
That like hardship is a good thing. I don't know that I can name another like vibe I could go find where the core tenet is I want to become cooler through hardship.
Yeah.
Besides something
Very
like
difficult.
grappling, martial arts. Like there's not a lot else out there that pushes you to do that, and that's what you enjoy, is like engaging with something that is super hard.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. I even think about it like I was talking to my sister because, you know, she talks to me about like dating and stuff. And I'm like, first of all, I'm super lucky to have met someone so young when I did, because we met when we were freshmen in college.
Oh, that's
great.
nice. Yeah.
Had that one worked out. Like I didn't have to struggle through all the relationship bullshit, right?
Yeah.
But other people, and especially like women, like I think most dudes like suck right now. I really feel like most guys kind of suck. And I was talking to her and I was like, because it's just this world of like they can just get on Tinder and just find hookups, and that's like how they roll.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like you need to go somewhere where that's not the vibe. And the only way I know how to explain that is when I go to jiu-jitsu gyms. And I'm sure there's dudes in jiu-jitsu gyms that don't take this all the wrong thing.
Tyler, we need to talk.
But there's also a lot of dudes who are like trying to actually make themselves better actively on a day-to-day basis, willing to go through hardship.
Yeah.
I don't know another shortcut to find people like that.
Yeah. It is a good qualifier.
I don't think I've explained it really well, but that
does make sense. Yeah, there's not too many things in life that people will voluntarily apply themselves to that don't have a great monetary reward.
Yeah.
Like being great at jiu-jitsu doesn't, probably you're going to be in the hole at the end of it. You've spent more money on it than if you're just looking at it like that, because people go do hard things, they get educated and, you know, they become doctors and surgeons, but generally, you know, they're expecting to have some kind of surgeon-like career after that with all the trappings of a surgeon-like life, right? Well, you know, when you're trying to get your black belt, you're not thinking like, I want to sleep in the gym, you know, and I'll drive a crappy car and I'll hustle seminars and private lessons. Like that's not what you're thinking. You want to be really good at it and you want to get through it, and it's difficult. That's the allure of it, and I think it's up to instructors and practitioners to remember that it's supposed to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
You're supposed to come across people that push you in ways you don't want to be pushed. And that means they're going to be rough. There's going to be people that are way more aggressive than what you're ready for. They're going to do things that you think are dirty or that you think are rude, but you better get used to it because, life is dirty and rude.
Mm-hmm.
It's not everything comes to you in a polite manner. Now, do you want a whole gym full of people doing stuff like that? No, you don't.
Right.
But you want one or two guys like that because they keep the whole room honest.
I understand what
you know what I mean?
saying.
And everyone knows who those guys are. And
Yeah.
like, hey, watch out,
Yeah.
But you need that because there's gnarly dudes out there.
I want that to be 10% of my roles.
Yeah,
at most,
exactly.
At most. And then the rest of the time, I want it to be like what my favorite part of jiu-jitsu is, which is like, oh, we're doing a puzzle on the ground.
Sure.
And it's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's super challenging. Yeah. I feel what you're saying. I don't know how to make this point any clearer, and it's something I think I have to continue working on, which is what podcasts are for, so that I can keep trying to get this idea figured out. But there's something there. There's something there. I even feel like, this is maybe a cop-out, but I feel like there's a lot of exercise, and I've talked about this before, like exercises people do that like they seem hard from the outside, but if that person really likes doing it, it becomes less hard for them. Such as like people who really love running, right? Who are like hooked on running, or bicycling, the guys in the spandex. Like in a way, yes, that was hard. They went on a 10-mile run. That's crazy. That's super hard. But if that's like their happy place, then doesn't it become a little easier?
It's
if
like
you
it's
took that
self-selecting,
runner
right?
and you put him in a pool, like, and they had to do it's same kind of like physical challenge of a workout. They still would hate that a little more. The problem is when you start liking jiu-jitsu, because then that goes away. Because as soon as you start enjoying yourself in jiu-jitsu, I don't have the benefit of feeling like I had to push through to get here today.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but it doesn't get any easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even when you get better at it, I don't feel like it gets easier.
Yeah.
I feel like it's harder. But I know what you mean about, and I'm with you on that. I think a lot of people do things that they're good at.
Yes.
It's very self-selecting.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm good at this. So, in fact, I was listening to a podcast where the guest was saying that he preferred one particular sport over another because of the way that it shaped the athletes' bodies, that the athletes looked more elegant. And I thought, I think it's self-selecting more. I think people with those body types are really good at those sports and certain sports in general. Jiu-jitsu is an odd one because there's all kinds of body. There's not a body type for jiu-jitsu, even though they go like tall and lanky.
Yeah.
Hey, man, there's little dudes that are so hard to deal with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
And there's big dudes, and it runs the whole range. There's guys that they don't appear to be very strong until they get their grips on you, and you're like, holy wow, like, dude, So jiu-jitsu doesn't have a type.
It makes me wonder too. Hey, Andrea, can you grab me a piece of fabric tape so I can tape up this cord? It's starting to bang on my mic. Just toss me the roll. It makes me wonder too if people who do this their whole life get the same benefit from it as people who start it with no experience. I just wonder about that, because when you've done this since childhood, in a way you've always been good at it and you just continue to get better at it, as opposed to when you come in like I did at 25 and I had never engaged with any of this before, and there's so many walls to overcome that had a I think like maybe a greater benefit to changing me.
It's hard to say. It's like saying
Main pocket.
Is the guy who went out and like got hooked on drugs and then cleaned his life up, went to church, let's say, better off than the guy that grew up in church and never did it?
Not even better off. In that case, it would be, does he have a stronger faith? Right.
Does he have a stronger faith? It's hard to say. I definitely think there is a benefit on the kid's side when you grow up, that there's a lot of hang-ups that you don't, like, for instance, when adults come to train, especially adult men, they have a lot of hang-ups about getting beat by other dudes. And most kids don't have those hang-ups. Like, they don't care if someone throws them on the ground. They're just kind of having fun, and they work that out real early. But I think they still get a strong benefit from them. It's just, they're just not as conscious of it. I think they kind of get it almost through osmosis, and it becomes who they are.
Sure.
And for guys like us who started later in life, it's more of like, oh, I see there's a difference between who I was before and who I am after.
Right.
And for the kids, it's just like, this is who I am.
So you feel like it's different, but it's not necessarily, there's not necessarily a bigger or smaller benefit.
I don't know if it's better.
Yeah, I understand.
You know?
I don't know if it is either.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
wasn't a kid who grew up.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
But I think but it's cool. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate it just as much as I look at a kid who's been doing this their whole life and they become so good and they're like a world champ by 16 and you're just like, good God.
Yeah.
I have so much ground to catch up to that.
Yeah.
Actually, there's not even. I will never
You
catch
won't
up
catch
to that.
it. Yeah.
You know, it's too much of a head start. In the same way, I feel that I am jealous of that, but I think they should be jealous of me too, because I got to do something that was really transformative.
Sure.
And they're going to have to go find that somewhere else.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, for sure. And they do miss that part of it, I think. But then they also get to often explore parts of it that we never get to.
That's true.
And that's just part of the game.
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? Everyone wants to be the world champion because that seems like a great idea. But, you know, I that's a very rare. Most of the people doing jiu-jitsu aren't anywhere near that. Even though, like, it's humorous to me now. It used to bother me because I used to judge myself by it the same way. You'll take the best guys in the world and you'll be like, well, I'm not like that. Like, that guy's so good, which is insanity to judge yourself based on that. But in jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of that still.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not. Well, Gordon Ryan says you should blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, there's only one Gordon Ryan, and like everyone makes a big deal about him because, damn, there's only one of them like that. You know, like nobody seems to be able to hit that level of jiu-jitsu. Right. And most people you're training with are nowhere near that, and you shouldn't even make that your measuring stick. You know, like you're almost missing the mark.
Right.
But I get it because the competitive side is such a big, like, it's put out there and it's hard and it's at such a high level. But there's so much more to be gleaned from coming in and training every day and training with the same people. And there's a camaraderie and a fellowship there of suffering and pain and, you know, like putting in work. I think that is super beneficial. You know, and I think if you're like one of these world champion dudes or super athlete, you might miss that too. You know?
Well, I think it's all about setting intention, right?
Yeah.
It's like you got to understand what is it that you want from this before you start it.
Yeah.
Because you will get confused along the way about what it is you think you want.
Sure.
At a certain
it
point.
changes.
Yeah. Like, I know that I'm here for one reason, and it's to just be less of a bitch.
Yeah.
A really simple reason. So as long as I'm showing up, great.
Right.
If I'm losing, it's almost better.
Yeah.
If I'm taking a really painful beatdown, good, you know? And like, it's hard to keep that in your mind when someone is.
This is why the people around us don't want to do it, by the way. Right.
But you have to teach yourself to do that. I remember specifically at one point I was rolling with some guy and I had really been trying to like work on that thought of like, why am I here? Because you get confused. You go to a gym, this is recent for me. I finally got to the point where I got my blue belt, and then shortly after there I felt like, okay, maybe I am a blue belt. And then I would go to gyms that have a bunch of white belts, and I'd be like, oh, I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to stop that right now. So you'll be back at a gym with purple and brown belts sitting on your face, and it's going to suck. So I was like, remind yourself. Okay, all right, I'm here to suffer. Cool. And then I ended up in a roll, and some guy was in mount, and he was hooking my shins and just like tearing the fuck out of my legs. It hurt so bad. And then I remember just like I started smiling, and I was like, why am I smiling? I'm like a psychopath right now. I was like, oh, because this hurts.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
That's why you're here.
We did it. Cool. I got what I needed today then.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to keep that in mind.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so hard in the beginning. You embrace that. Like, you have to embrace that mindset, or you probably won't get through it unless maybe if you wrestled, or some guys come in and they're extra rowdy and they kind of can manhandle half of the white belts. And they don't make it super far though. Like, jiu-jitsu has a way of grinding all that shit out. Like, no super rowdy guy goes super rowdy all the way to black belt. Like, at a certain level that gets ground out. Like, it's a big filter, for sure. But you can make it through the white belts. You could rough some white belts up, and still just be a real tough SOB, Yeah. But eventually, you got to learn. But when you do learn, and you're like, oh shit, I can do some of these moves against people now. And I went and I trained over here, and like, you know what? None of their white belts got me. And then I topped out one of these. Like, you start feeling like I can do that, and now you have expectation, and your expectation is not to embrace pain. Your expectation is I should be able to beat all the guys that are at this level.
Yeah.
And then you go train somewhere else, and there's some other dude, and you think, well, I should be able to beat that guy, and that guy rolls you up. You know?
I don't know if it's the same at any sort of belt level. I know for sure that different gyms define blue at different places.
Oh, of
and
course.
Some gyms,
there's a lot of variation.
Not be wearing a blue belt.
There's too much variation. Yeah,
it's a lot. But I've also heard it be well described as like it's a personal journey, and so there's a difference between white. White to blue for someone might mean like you came in as a complete idiot who could barely move your body, and now you like know a little jiu-jitsu. And maybe that's where I am, or I guess it was. I feel a little more confident these days, I think, but I'll still take a regular beating from a purple, from a brown belt who just.
It's really hard to compare ranks to off of a 5-minute roll. Two guys that you're traveling. You pop into some gym. This dude is some other dude. You guys have, you meet, you train. He gets the better of you in a 6-minute round, and you go away like, oh man, this guy's way better than me. Maybe like I would like to see you guys roll 100 times.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then see where the variation is, because you probably would sometimes. Like a lot of times, to be honest, when I train with people for the first time, I'm not doing anything spectacular. I'm just like, I get confused by things they're doing. I'm like, what's this guy doing? I'm trying to figure it out. And I get beat by people. I don't care. It's like, well, let's roll again. Let's keep rolling. Let's see over time. I know that over time is a better way to measure yourself. Yeah. But we still do it.
Yeah.
And I still do it. Even as a black belt, I train places, and it's like, you think you're going to beat every person you roll against. You're not, dude.
Right.
Get used to it.
Yeah.
You should know that lesson. Jiu-jitsu teaches you that the first day you walk in. It teaches you that lesson.
I've heard that as a black belt, as you're traveling around, coaches will throw their purples and browns up against you, and those guys really have something to
They're
prove
hungry.
too,
Yeah.
And they want it, and I can't imagine the type of pressure that would feel like.
Well,
I'm still at a place where there's no pressure. It doesn't matter.
It's weird. So I have a black belt in the gi. I don't have a black belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a brown belt in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. But I trained in the gi for a long time. Been training 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu for quite a while now. Not in a rush. I told Eddie, like, when we first talked about it, I'm like, dude, I'm in no rush. I've been training for a long time. Like, I get that part of it. The part that's tricky is getting older and dropping in at places and just realizing, like, dude, you're not going to beat every 26-year-old purple belt in this room today. Yeah. Some of them are really fucking good, Yeah. And you have to accept that as part of the game. But that also goes along with, like, hey, man, you can't judge yourself based on a 5-minute roll with somebody.
Yeah.
You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to meet a scientist and talk to him for 5 minutes, and then you're going to make a determination about this guy's ability as a scientist.
Yeah,
like, you
fair.
can't do that, man. Like,
that's fair.
There's a lot of people, they know a lot of shit in a lot of different situations, and it's just, but we do it. We do it because we're super hyper competitive.
We can't help it. Can't help it.
It's hierarchy, man.
Yeah.
It's worse in the gi world because we constantly have the belts on, and we're constantly showing rank, and we're constantly reinforcing it.
Yeah.
No-gi's not as bad. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, because everybody can just be, because you almost never know. Unless they're wearing a ranked rash guard that day, you don't know. And so you go into it with an open mind. And sometimes that helps, because if I don't know that person is a blue belt, then I'm going to maybe hold my own a little better, know? Sometimes it doesn't help.
Yeah,
because you get a white belt who is like built like a Division I football player, and you're just like, okay, I'm about to die.
Yeah, I think we should all just wear white belts. Just white belt it out, man.
I feel like it's one of the more confusing things about this sport.
Yeah,
I don't know. I always felt it was confusing. I hope maybe with time it will become less confusing to me.
I think the problem is that no gi grappling, so jiu-jitsu as a martial art really blurs the line in the gi between a martial art and a sport, because there's a highly competitive side, and that highly competitive side drives gi jiu-jitsu. Like, it's the main driver, okay? No-gi jiu-jitsu, same thing. Competition's mostly driving it. However, it's more sport than it is martial art. It feels like it's 30% martial art and 70% sport, So it is weird to have rankings, to be honest with you, and like give out belts. Sometimes it feels like we're just doing a sport until that one day when we promote people, then then now we're a martial art,
Yeah.
So
I almost don't want to like over think about it or talk about it, because I think like we had talked about, I feel like it's one of the reasons people don't get into this, because they see this ranking system and that they're going to come in on the bottom rung of it, and that's going to be true either way. But the fact that it's like visually represented, and that we're all kind of obsessed with trying to understand it all the time, when I'm more interested in jiu-jitsu.
I know what you mean, but talking about like doing something hard, that's hard too, because you have to acknowledge like,
yes,
I'm a beginner, I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Some people,
it's the honesty, right?
Yeah,
like you said.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing really is that because it's a sport, it's the goalposts moving. They're always moving. The entire sport is moving.
Yeah.
Everyone around you is becoming better. No one is staying stagnant like at any point. So you will never catch up ever.
Right.
And everybody that you started after, as long as they keep going, you'll never catch them.
Right.
I mean,
mostly you're right.
Depends how you define it. But again,
Sure.
It's like out of 100 rolls, like you might catch them once, but like you won't catch them out of 100. You won't take the majority of those.
Yeah.
And that's challenging. That's hard to accept. But we never get a chance to do two things that I think would really solidify this for people. It would help their ego. And I think that like the ego needs help in this sport, because everybody talks about how we bash down the ego.
Sure.
I have my own thoughts on why that's not a great thing. That's why people end up quitting for all the wrong reasons and things, because you checking to an extent the bad parts of your ego, I'm into that, but your main ego, the thing that makes you want things, crucial you have that in place.
Right.
And so there's two things I think we never get to do, which is number one, you never get to roll against yourself yesterday or like yourself when you first started, because I can't imagine how proud I would feel to kick my own ass from me 2 years ago. Sure. It would be it would just be a great day. I'd be like,
how hard would you go on yourself?
Oh God, yeah, no
You'd
mercy.
Fuck yourself up,
no
right?
Mercy.
Right? Wouldn't you? I know I would, man.
No mercy. I'd be like, you're going to sleep.
I would break my own shit off.
Yeah,
dude.
because you're like, I'm so proud of this.
Yes.
Like look what a bitch you were. You're not a bitch. It's awesome. But the other thing is, you don't. Ideally, you don't really get to use it outside of this gym, because even the better you become in this sport, you just become far less likely to engage in anything physical.
Yeah.
Because it challenges you constantly. To never make assumptions about somebody else and what they have going on, and especially traveling. When I see the nerdy tiny dude in the corner, he's the one I'm probably most scared of, because like he's probably a savage. He's probably a destroyer. You can't make assumptions out in the world about what someone knows or doesn't know about their body and grappling and all these things. But that would be the other proving ground, is to be able to do this sport with someone who doesn't know this sport. And we don't get a lot of chance to do that.
No, you don't. And that's real tricky too, because I feel like the longer I did jiu-jitsu, the less I wanted any kind of physical altercation. And to the point now, I'm a real big believer in this, that you should avoid it almost at all costs, because there's people who they don't have the same value system as you. You don't know who you're going to run across. Some people, their violence escalation chain is much faster than yours, and they're willing to do things you're not willing to do.
Yeah.
And and you have to ask yourself, like, in those situations, what are you fighting for?
Right.
Like, you're at Walgreens, like, why are you arguing with somebody about your placement in line? You're trying to pick up your prescription and go home.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I get it, because there's also that part of you that goes like, hey, I'm not going to let somebody walk all over me. I do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, almost like it's a parlor trick, but it's like, no, dude, you're not doing jiu-jitsu. You're doing jiu-jitsu. So if this dude here will not walk away from you, he's in you, like he's going to assault, then that's different.
Right.
But if it's within your power to step back, you should step back.
Yeah.
Because it's too violent, man. It's too wild.
I harp on this topic so much on this podcast. I really want to do it again, but my poor listeners have to listen to me go into the same rant every time. I really agree with what you're saying, and I think it's I think it's important. But I think the point I feel here is like I almost want that for us. You know, I want everybody to have that shot to recognize that all this hard work meant something, but at the same time, I don't want anybody to be.
It's like you need a service where you can go like, okay, we're gonna have somebody like mug you in the next month, and we're gonna get after it. Like we're gonna rough you up if you let us, right? But you're,
but he's not gonna pull out a gun or a knife. Okay, he's gonna come at you with his hands, and he doesn't know anything about fighting. And then we go hire random people off of Craigslist to go just assault an occasional, jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Man, you want to prove yourself.
And the service is called Test Me. It's one word. And maybe there's like a belt test system to it too. So maybe if you're a purple belt, we're gonna send a blue belt after you, and he's gonna attack you in the street, right? Yeah. But the funny thing is always that like my sloppy knee bar doesn't work here, but it works out there. In the right situation, that sloppy ass knee bar breaks someone's leg. It's not a big deal. Just you never get to know that.
I know, man. I think that's why a lot of jiu-jitsu guys traditionally would try to fight, even if it was just one fight. They would do one MMA fight because they wanted to feel like they could test their jiu-jitsu. I think it's important to know what you're made of, but I also think if you're training day in and day out and not, you have the chance to drop in, like especially like someone like yourself. You guys are traveling around. You're training all over the place. You don't have the benefit of picking partners. You have no idea who you're going to roll with.
Okay, this is what I want to talk about because I'm really torn on the topic of competition at this point. All right, so I want your thoughts on this. I have not competed yet in a competition for a few reasons, and I don't know if I'm making these reasons up, and you can tell me if I am or not. Number one is well, the big one that's always a problem is really just that I'm never in a place long enough to feel like I could go represent a gym and a coach would be happy to have me go rep their gym at a competition. Nor am I in town when the competition's happening. It'd be really hard to work out. But there have been times where I could have, right? When I go in, I feel constantly that I'm almost always in competition because every time I show up to a new gym, particularly since I got my blue belt and show up to a gym, people do not hold back. And they're trying to reestablish their gym's hierarchy. Yeah. And I'm in a fight for my life against people I don't know. Like, that's just regularly how I train.
That's your Tuesday.
Yeah. That's a normal day, and it happens once every 2 weeks for me. Brand new place, brand new people. So that's one excuse I've got. The other excuse, though, and I think this is the main one, is that's not why I really do this sport. Like, I do this sport because it's a crazy hard workout. It's gotten me in really good shape. It makes me not I don't react to pain the same way. It's like fine if someone has their knee on my abs and I'm dying on the ground and I can't breathe. Like that's why I did this sport. Yeah. And I feel like when I go against people who are really going hard, I'm really worried about getting injured with them when they're ripping on submissions and all these things. Sure. And in a competition, that is multiplied tenfold. And if I break my arm, that's a serious detriment to my life. Like that's a big problem for me. I don't have the money to afford going to the doctor for that. I don't. Who's going to be driving my RV around? It's got to move in a week. I got to go somewhere else. I can't wait and have this cast on, and Andrea can't load up everything that needs to be loaded up, so she can't put the motorcycle in the back of the truck. Yeah, I have to have two hands to do that. Like that's massive. So I feel like I don't know if I'm just avoiding it, and if those are excuses, or like how I should think about this.
I don't know. It depends on what you want to get out of the competition. I really think like. If you feel like it's something you want to do, then you should do it. And I think if it was something you really wanted to do, it doesn't matter too much about like you can just go compete independently. You don't have to rep a school.
That's true. That's true.
Honestly. But at the same time, you're getting a lot of valuable experience dropping in training, a lot of different places. It's not exactly the same intensity as a competition. But yeah, you could get hurt too, but you could get hurt training too. At the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's valuable experience to compete at all the belt levels. That was so when I competed, I think my first tournament I was 28 as a white belt, and I didn't have any bones about being world champion and all. I was like, dude, I just want to be a gatekeeper. If I can win matches at every belt level, I just want to be competitive. I want my name to be on the list. I want to fucking go in there and fight hard. I want to be able to beat people, but I don't have to win every tournament I get into. I never, and maybe that's why I wasn't a great competitor. I was a mediocre competitor. I was a 50-50 guy. But my goal was, I guess, to be a 50-50 guy, kind of. I just felt like that was enough for me. I wanted to feel like I was competitive at each belt level. And as long as I felt that, I was like, okay, I feel like I belong here.
Okay.
And that was just personal. That was for me, that I needed to do that. Several of my first competitions, I didn't even go with a coach. It was just like, I was just going, you know, just to get it in. And like, I competed a lot without coaches, actually. But it wasn't, I don't know. I wanted to test myself, and I really liked preparation for the tournaments. It really drove me to train hard. And I felt like I got excuse me, sorry. I felt like I got a lot of good benefits out of that, out of that aspect of it. Now, you're getting a lot of good benefits out of being able to travel and train. Like, that's valuable, man.
Yeah.
There's people all over.
But you make a good point. I bet I could just as easily be injured in here as I could out there. Or
could.
maybe not just as easily, because quite often your teammates are generally looking out for you.
Yeah.
But shit happens here. Accidents happen, too.
It does. I mean, most of the time you get hurt in jiu-jitsu doing something that you're not. It's never the thing you think that's going to hurt you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always some random weird stuff. So,
Yeah.
But I think competition's valuable. I don't think it's the only way to measure yourself, though. And the people that do only measure themselves by their competitive, success and record, they seem to not have as much fun in jiu-jitsu. They seem to be stressed all the time. They're always worried about dieting. They're always worried about training.
Yeah.
They're always worried about finding better training partner. And it's just like, dude, this is such a fun martial art.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't forget that part of it, you know? And a lot of guys that are having fun with it and compete, they seem to do really well still. Like, you don't have to go to some giant school with 1,000 guys in the top 10. Well, that's impossible to have 1,000 in the top 10. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
There's guys that are good, man.
Yeah.
They come from small schools and they're good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it's that's just like everything else with jiu-jitsu. It's just going to be personal. It's just going to be whatever you need. But it's the real thing is when other people measure you by their metric, and so I get a lot of pressure to go compete because that's how someone else measures theirs, and that's fine, and I understand that. And I'm not even saying they're wrong, but I have to. It's something I have to wrestle with a little bit.
If you're gonna do it long term, like if that's your goal, like I want to do this for as long as I can do it, right? Then it has to be personal,
right?
If it's for any other reason than personal, you'll eventually quit going.
That's true.
Has to be for you, dude.
I really wish everybody could experience it the way that we get to experience it being on the road. Like, I can't. At this point, it's one of the reasons why when people ask us, like, when are you going to stop traveling, like buy a house? Fair question, right? Because that'd be the normal thing to do.
Yeah.
And there's certainly benefits to that. I see it. I mean, now that we've traveled, like there's a few towns where I'm like, you know what? I could live there. That's
How
a cool
long
place.
have you been traveling?
3 years now.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Right.
This is like a fantasy of mine.
Oh, really?
My wife and I have fantasized several times about, like, the kids are grown, just get an RV and travel, do jiu-jitsu and podcast. No, but you're doing it.
But do it before it's like retirement time. You know what I mean? When you can barely walk and stuff.
Right.
You can't train anymore.
Right.
Yeah. No, you got to do it well.
How are you? I mean, 3 years, is it something you feel like you can get out of your system, or you feel like it's more of a way of life?
Nah, the only real problem now is like, how long can we make this RV last? Because that's the expensive part, right? Is like RVs aren't meant to last forever. And if you're using them every day, they'll last even shorter. So how long can we make this one last before we have to buy the next one? Because there's no way.
Do you run into other people doing the same stuff or similar stuff?
Super rare.
Really?
Yeah. Like in terms of jiu-jitsu or
just in general, people like.
No, honestly, they say that like young people are living in vans and becoming digital nomads, and like sometimes, but I think it's probably because we do it like old people. So like I don't run into a lot of those young people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're not going to the Instagram sites.
Yeah, I don't go to the Instagram place in my van. I have an RV because it's more comfortable. It's like an apartment.
Yeah, right.
And so I go to the RV park where there's power and sewer, and that's where the retarees go too. But fuck it, I love living with retirees.
Oh,
man.
dude,
they're cool.
That's the move, man.
I love it. There's this one guy that rolled up, and like a lot of them are kind of a bit the same. But what I like is they're calm, they're chill. They sit outside a lot. they vibe, they're nice. They go to bed early like I do.
Yeah.
It's nice and quiet. So that works for me. I could live in a retirement community. I'd be like, yeah, all right, we're gonna go to sleep now, right? All right, cool.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Lights out.
Yeah. So that's probably why we don't run into quite as many of them, because we don't do it the trendy way. But I do it in a way that's created longevity. Like, it's so comfortable. It's
do you train in every, like, how do you decide where you're going to stop and where you're going to train?
Well, work used to dictate most of the schedule. Mm-hmm. It's getting a little less like that, and we actually have more of our pick. So there's other projects that come up. So like the reason we're in Nashville and then we're going to Memphis next is specifically to train jiu-jitsu, because Andrea is making her documentary, American Jiu-Jitera, and she got in contact with female black belts in those towns.
Oh,
and
got you.
We're going to go train at their gyms and interview them and all that stuff. So that's why we're at these spots. So it's a mix.
So so it's like you get to do both then. Yeah.
Because
that's pretty awesome.
The work can now happen pretty much anywhere. But we still travel a lot for work, for like we have a shoot here, or we've got a whatever going on in a different place. We have a client out there. So that's still like the main driver of the decisions. But, it's great in the winter when it's, we'll be going to Florida and Tucson again.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a drop.
Because they're sunbirds, man. That's awesome. And you're doing it while you're young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to, wait, because I don't even know how much of a world there's going to be left. I don't know how much interstate travel is going to be affected. I mean, that was something that like was considered unthinkable.
Yeah.
As little as 3 years ago. And then we saw within the last 3 years some threats to interstate travel. Like it's
pretty wild.
Right? So
we've had it really good, like we've had it so good in the last, say since electricity. Damn, we've had it good compared to everybody else that came before that.
Yeah.
Like we're balling like kings. We really are, dude.
True. That's true. Yeah, no, life's pretty great.
Yeah, it is.
But I want to get that freedom while I've still got a lot of freedom.
Oh hell yeah, I want to max it out. Like I'm not feeling. Some people they feel bad. I'm not feeling bad about it. I'm feeling great about it because. A lot of people sacrificed and suffered and went through all kinds of shit and ate shit so we could be here. So I'm down for it.
I'm definitely not going to wait until I can barely, move or have fun anymore and to enjoy my life. Like I'm not going to have that version of retirement.
Yeah.
I'm good with what I got.
What's your favorite spot that you guys have been into, or maybe just one of your favorites? If you,
it's hard to pick. Tucson stands out to me.
Interesting.
I've built the best friendships there, I think.
Okay.
And the weather's perfect, and I can ride my motorcycle every day.
Oh,
and,
I see.
It's like a big enough town. It's got everything, but it still feels like kind of small.
Yeah.
We usually stay out a little out on the outskirts of town, and the place we stay has like trails right there, so you can go get lost in the Saguaro Desert for 3-4 hours if you want. Like no one's stopping you.
That's pretty cool.
That's what I really like about that place.
What about worst? Or one of the worst? Come on, there's some real dives.
Yeah, I think that it is. Oh, I always forget the name of this town, Andrea, in Texas. Brooklyn, Texas. I apologize to the folks of Brooklyn, Texas.
Where are you from? Brooklyn, New York. No, Texas.
Let me give some context. When we were there was March of 2019. Okay. So, what? 2020. Okay, March of 2020.
Okay.
So we were.
Oh, it's about to pop off.
Yes,
it's about to.
So I went to like Walmart for the first time, where they made you wait outside in a line.
Oh shit!
Put your mask on. There's only like 10 people allowed in the Walmart.
Right.
There's a cop there.
Right.
Freaky. Right.
Right.
The weather was shit.
Yeah.
The mosquitoes were shit. It's not your fault, Brooklyn, Texas, but we had like the worst 3 weeks in a long time there, and we were like sitting there going like, where the fuck are we going next?
Brooklyn,
Does this
Texas.
Cancel? Is COVID going to cancel all of our work?
Right.
For the next
You're thinking
year?
you're going to be stuck in this.
We
town.
had just gone on the road. It was like the start of us being, you know what I mean?
You guys
it was
just
early on.
started.
We were like 6 months in.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So we were like, what's about to happen?
So what did happen? What did you do?
It was fine.
Just chilled.
Yeah, we camped out.
We got a house on wheels, bitches.
We mostly
we're a moving quarantine.
Pretty much hung out in states that were a little more amenable to personal freedoms during that time period. And
we're going to Florida.
Yeah, kind of enjoyed ourselves. So it was fine.
That's awesome.
It was fine.
Wow, what a wild time.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. But you asked like how we pick those gyms, because I think that's like a tricky part. If I know there's a 10th planet in town, I know I'm good. I have yet to be to a 10th planet school where the vibe isn't good, the coach isn't good, or the roles aren't good.
Wild?
It's always fun. It's always fun.
I have the same experience, and I've traveled not a ton, but enough, and I always drop in and I always just pick random ass places to
Yeah.
go. The 10th Planet gyms this was before I was ever part of 10th Planet. They were always the dopest
Always
gyms.
great. Always fun.
the nice.
And maybe that's because of me and my personality and what I enjoy.
No,
I want to
think
sit and talk about,
I think they're
aliens.
cool people.
But yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good vibe.
it
So
is.
almost always there. I will usually try out another gym, especially if there's no gi. And in
Right.
fact, like the gym I started at really was Gracie Bradenton in Florida,
Mhm.
and that's Sonny Parlin is the instructor there, and he's awesome. The vibe is good. It's all no gi. It's chill. So,
That's pretty cool.
you find it, but then there's gyms where like I will never go back.
Yeah.
And that happens too. And don't ask me to list those
Sure.
on the podcast.
I mean, I've had
but-
bad experiences dropping in.
Yeah.
I've had guys I had a guy pick me up and slam me in a triangle.
that's cool.
In a gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, gee, man, great. Like
yeah.
one MMA guy. He was like their one MMA guy. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
you should roll with him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm just like, okay. Not thinking. I'm thinking I'm on a vacation roll. He's like, no, man, this is the Kumite.
I don't like injustice. I really hate injustice.
Yeah,
in this
I know.
world. I really
feel you.
I hope one day, and frankly, the more I've done jiu-jitsu, the less it bothers me when I have a role where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, do you realize how shitty what you're doing is? I feel that far less because it doesn't hurt as much anymore.
Yeah.
But there are still times, man, where I'm just like, there is no justice here for someone to be doing that. And I want to like sit someone down and like be their therapist and be like, why are you doing that? Like,
Yeah.
what is still in you
Interesting.
to be, this isn't a specific example at all, but if you have a brown belt that's just like, I'm just going to decimate this white belt and make this painful, and
Yeah.
they're tapping and I'm hanging on to things way
Yeah.
too long and all this shit, you see that a lot.
Yeah.
And I just want to sit down with that guy and be like, you need help, bro. Like, that should be out of your system by now.
I don't. So let me ask you this: is it that they have like a mean streak in them, like they're ornery and they want to make it hurt, or is it? Or
It's
is
the
it that
bad parts of the ego? It's the parts.
you think it's do you
Yeah.
think some guys don't realize they're just like they're extra? Can it be a little bit of both? Because I do know some guys that are ornery, and they do mean shit, man. And it's like, damn, dude, like you're fucking up these new guys for no reason. You're wrist locking them and like really putting it
Yeah.
on them.
I think it's, oh God, I don't know, man. I don't know.
As an
I don't know.
owner, I don't appreciate it at all because
No.
I'm trying to take care of all the new babies that
No,
come
that's,
in.
well, that's why it's
you know?
super important that the owner be aware of what's happening and like
Yeah.
around and watching the roles and stuff, because guys won't tell you. Like, I would never tell you if someone
Sure.
came and fucked me up.
Right.
You'd have to see it.
Yeah.
And I think most people feel the same way. Like,
Yeah.
I've never go talk to a coach and tell him that someone's
Yeah.
being mean. No.
Yeah.
So that's one of the key things, and I think it's one of the reasons I love the 10th Planets, is because most of the time they're watching the roles, they're there and they're present, and sometimes in those other schools you don't get that same
Yeah.
awareness, and so yeah, I guess that's.
I mean, there's a certain amount of like pain that's just part of the game.
Oh, yeah, of
You're
course,
gonna lose,
of course.
But there are dudes that go particularly hard on.
well, I think the real thing is that, like, how is it that they don't understand something I already understand?
Right. Right.
From
Yeah.
before I was a blue belt,
Right.
I knew that the day one guy, I'm not going to ruin his life.
Yeah.
And
The general conscientiousness that you have, they don't seem to exhibit.
listen, I think everybody just has a different philosophy in the sport. My philosophy has always been, if you are going to get really good at jiu-jitsu, what it means is that, like, your output should be like almost nothing. It should be graceful how you deal with other people.
It's got to be efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's that was the whole point of the sport, is
Yeah.
like tiny Helio Gracie
Right.
is like, I can do whatever.
Yeah,
And
sure.
it's so I feel that strongly, is like, already I feel like when I'm with someone who I know is of less skill than me, I'm relaxed. Even with I'm somebody who's of far greater skill than me, I'm
Yeah.
trying to be incredibly relaxed, because
Sure.
if I didn't do that in a way that was relaxed, then I didn't earn it. If I didn't get that pass in a way that was
Yeah, I
technical.
feel the same way too, but there
Yeah.
are times when it's like I got to get after it to make something happen.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad about it in those cases if the person I'm training with is really we're pushing each other.
sure.
But if it's just a new dude and I'm just smoking his ass, like I
right?
give a lot up to people. I actually find it stress relieving to go like, I'm gonna put myself in the bad spot, and we'll just start from there. And if you get me, you get me. Good job.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Honestly, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and I'm a big believer in, if you're not tapping and training, at least once in a while, you're not taking enough chances
Right,
with your
that's true.
jiu-jitsu. Like, there's no sport in the world where you go and the main guy never makes a mistake, never misses a shot.
Yeah.
You know, the best players in the world lose games still. The best, you know, the best.
Yeah.
But for some reason in jiu-jitsu, we got this philosophy that's like you could never get tapped by anybody that's not better than you. And it's like, no, dude, the moves work. These moves work.
Yeah.
And if the moves put on in the right setting in the right way, you're going to have to tap or you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I could take a bum off the street and teach him how to do it. And if he does it, you're going to have to tap. Like, it doesn't matter who he is,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a part that people maybe kind of, and that's how you want it. You want the moves to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe I just want everybody to do this for the same reason I do it.
Maybe.
It's not maybe. I want everybody to do this for the
though.
same. Yeah, and they don't.
And you have to, like, there's some
I do.
guys that I don't even like rolling with them because they're not even fun rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what I call it is the shared burden of safety. And I view it like this. Like, if you and I are going to train, I have to watch out for me and I have to watch out for you. And you have to watch out for you and you have to watch out for me. We're sharing the burden 50-50. We're both going to go as hard as we can go within our limits, right? Where we both can share that burden. Now, the moment I go, fuck Tyler, I want to win at all costs. I don't care about, I'm redlining it. I'm going to stop worrying about safety. No, you have to own the burden of safety. And if you don't, if you go, Tim, I'm going hard too, now someone's getting hurt. 100% someone's getting hurt.
Yeah.
And if you do own the burden of safety, but I don't, now you're not having a good roll.
Yeah.
Now all you're doing is being defensive and like protecting
Like
me from
legitimately
myself.
defensive.
Yes.
Like not this is a sport, but like I think I might get hurt today.
Yeah, those guys are not fun to train with.
And that's what I agree with you. And they totally exist and they're everywhere.
But we need them.
But why?
Because
no, wait, fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those guys. But you need a handful of those guys. 'Cause
Yeah.
you need to know that the shit that you're doing is real.
I understand what you're saying. I get it. I
On
get
that
it.
level.
Yeah, and again, like it's one of those things. If everybody did jiu-jitsu for the reasons I do jiu-jitsu, this sport would no longer
You
be
would
hard
quit.
for me.
You'd be like, you know what? I don't like. I'm just
Because
kidding.
I'd be like, oh, you're technically so much better, and also very gentle with how you do it. And if that was every roll,
yeah,
it would the inspiration would
Takes
go
all
away.
kinds.
Yeah,
it really does.
yeah.
It's just some kinds are like, dude, for real? Like, who raised you, man? Like, what are you doing, dude?
People need. I don't know what people need. I'm not one of those people that's like everybody needs therapy. I don't actually even agree with that. But some people really need better role models or need to learn some basic like philosophy maybe. So like basic ethics would be great.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, there's that diatribe about like, why didn't I learn anything real in school?
Yeah.
That diatribe, the first thing on the list is the stupidest fucking thing of all time. It's always, I didn't learn how to do my taxes. Like that's what you want to learn in school? That's the number one concern you have is how to fill out fucking government forms and give your money away?
Right.
Oh, I wish I could learn how to pay the government money.
Yeah.
Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
That's not a real thing.
Right.
I'm tired of seeing it on those lists.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's my aside. I'm tired of seeing that on those lists. I think the craziest thing is that the topic of ethics was never brought to my attention until college.
Yeah.
And
right. Not
college
even
freshmen
once.
have to take, a lot of schools have to take an ethics course first thing. And it's mostly just a course of the university saying, like, here's why it's bad to, plagiarize your paper.
Right.
But fine. But at least there's a conversation about some basic philosophy. The fact that you don't get that
right
until that point in your life is crazy.
Yeah.
Like understanding the difference between right and wrong, and then right and wrong as opposed to like what the rules are and how we all differently define what right and wrong.
Some people are living confused, man. Like it's like
sure.
their moral compass is just a hodgepodge of like things they learned on TV, things they saw in movies, things they read, things they've experienced, things they've learned. I mean, we're all impacted by that to a degree, but some people have had more of those types of ideas pounded in them at a younger. It's important for people to have some kind of moral compass.
Well, yeah, and then you think about like a lot of situations where people really don't have someone to like.
Yeah,
I'm lucky that I had parents who, when I did something wrong, explained, "Here's why that's wrong.
Right,
that is morally wrong.
Right.
People who grew up without that, even like, is there any hope for them to like pull that together?
It's hard. There has to be a line. And sometimes, okay, I was raised extremely strict. Like my parents were super fundamental Christian. My dad's a pastor of a church. We were all in, motherfuckers. Like every day, we went and knocked on doors and visited, and we're talking Stockton in the hood, you know, like, would you like to come to church? And like,
Wow.
that's just the way we lived. And my parents were good people. They're very honest people. They weren't like double-sided. They were like, hey, that's just who we were. And you know, it was tricky, but at the same time, they put a lot of good fundamental values in me. And I knew that, like, damn, my parents are a little ultra strict. Like, they probably drew the line a little too strict, but at least there was a line.
Yeah.
And I knew that these people cared about what happened to me as an individual.
Right.
And it wasn't just like, go do whatever, man, whatever feels good, because that's not always the right way to live, dude.
Right.
Like, you know, pain doesn't feel good, but sometimes you got to plant seeds and like put the work in, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson for people to get.
Yeah. Is the basic, we're touching on just the degeneration of society as a whole, man. Like, no one has a fucking moral compass.
I think they do. I just think that it's for whatever reason, it's not popular to talk about that as much. It's popular to talk about like everyone is amazing for everything.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. Because that's the real thing. Is it's not moral compass. That's a loose term. A smarter term would be like strong reasoning. Like,
sure,
if you had given me a basic reasoning class in high school.
Okay. Yeah.
Now we're talking about a different thing, because you don't have to tell me. I mean, ethics are a confusing thing. They depend on your culture. They depend on a lot of things. No one knows how to define that, because there's never been one that affects everybody. There just isn't. But reason is one that certainly can. Like, teaching people how to reason about things. I think that what you're describing too, this vibe of like everything's great all the time. You should forgive everyone for everything. Love should just be unconditional. You know all the bullshit you see. Super spiritual types.
Right.
You're just like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
This is just a
It
library
doesn't make
of words.
sense. It's like AI made it up.
Yeah.
Like they just put it in a machine.
Yeah, and they're becoming
gave it LSD.
And what they're trying to do is what I find to be an issue, which is like separate yourself so far from your own ego. But like, what are you if you're not your ego? This is like one of the most interesting conversations around literally AI, because they're trying to define like, when is it alive? And I listened to this super long podcast trying to discuss like, when is AI alive? There's the Google guy that was like, this AI is alive here at Google or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the computer can tell you it's alive. It can try to convince you it's alive. But if you program it to tell you that it's not alive, it will do that too.
Of course.
And then it'll convince you that it's not alive. But the real thing that this whole podcast, I'm listening to like 3 hours of people talking about AI, and I'm like, the one thing no one's ever talked about is an ego here. Mm-hmm. This is the one differentiator that you have to actually want something. That computer never actually wants to be turned on or be destroyed. It doesn't want that.
There's no nature in it.
You have to want something.
Yeah.
And so I think that like, I think it's an empty trap to take away all the things you might want. I'm just so free. Like, my soul's so fucking free.
Right.
I don't need or want anything.
Now what
like,
are you going to do?
Okay.
Right.
Cool, great. You're separating yourself from being a person. But if you learn how to have a strong ego in line with reason, and reason says like, okay, I'm me, pain is bad, so therefore pain for others would be bad too, therefore I shouldn't cause pain to others. Like a super basic reasoning stack.
Right. That's like,
there you go.
That's real low level too. Yeah. It doesn't require like that much education.
But how different is that, right? That's a stack. It's like a geometric proof.
Yeah.
Compared to the new version, which is like, everyone is great, unconditionally love everyone no matter what they do to you, and whatever they're doing is fine.
Right.
That's never going to stack up. That's all feeling.
Yeah.
There's no logic to that.
No, there's not.
Like, what do you do now then? And what do you do when that person is an asshole? Because a lot of people are fucking assholes.
You know, you learn the hard way. Fortunately and unfortunately, you know, I alluded to this a while ago. We have it really good.
Yes.
You know, and we ride on this infrastructure that's powered by electricity, and we are doing this podcast today because of it. All this cool shit. We live indoors. We have refrigeration and air conditioning and plumbing, and it's dope, dude.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So nature doesn't check us as much as it used to, right? We've built some fortification, but every once in a while shit goes south. And all the happy vibe, good feelings, everything's great, you're super amazing, all that shit gets reconciled again, because it comes down to like, well, what can you do? Can you do something? Do you know anything? Do you have a skill set? Are you interested in knowing anything?
Right.
Like, you just want good vibes and happy feelings.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is that?
Who do you want in the apocalypse with you?
Right.
Do you want the spirit guru on
No,
Instagram?
absolutely not.
Who, like, their one skill is convincing other people to stop being people?
No.
Or do you want, like, the plumber?
Right.
Like, bro, can we still use the toilet in this apocalypse
and
world?
Unfortunately, the plumber and the street sweeper and the surveyor and all these things that are necessary for our function of life, that's no longer considered dignified or art or value or passion. That's considered like, I don't want to do that, man. That's not my passion. What's your passion?
Yeah.
Like it takes all of it.
Yeah.
Like, we have to recognize it takes all of it, because if everyone's super happy vibe guy, then there's nothing's getting done, dude. You know what I mean?
Nothing's
Like, we
done.
need all of it.
Yeah, because I'm with you. I don't want to be too dogmatic about the things I think about this, so I want to leave that one there, because like otherwise I'll just keep pushing on my own personal philosophy. That's probably gonna be useless on this episode. But you're right. Do you know who Peter Thiel is? I've been talking about him a lot lately.
Is he like an investor from Silicon Valley?
PayPal. Yeah. So his book 0 to 1 is fantastic, and in this book, one of the first things he lays out is that like everybody's trying so hard to become a generalist, like to pick up skills in all these different places, but they're not really good at any one thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's almost what you're describing. It's like no one wants to pursue the one thing anymore. You know, it's like even in your college degree, as you watch like basic business or communications degrees, explode, what you're seeing is like a decrease in any other degree that gave you something that was like,
specific.
You're really going to be a fucking doctor at the end of this.
Right.
Man. Like, you're going to know what you're talking about with this thing. It's like, well, you need to know how to work with technology a little bit. You need to know how to talk with people. You need to know use social media. You need to know, but at the end of that, you're left skillless. And I can say that because that's how I feel all the time. It's like, I guess my main skill is entrepreneur. Okay, I know how to run a lot of different functions of a business. But like, if there became not a need for my business, and that's what I get worried about all the time, what
now
else? What else
Yeah,
now?
sure.
Yeah. So like lately my obsession has been on like, let me see if I can get more like skills actually developed. And so it's interesting you said your background in coding, right?
Yeah.
So that's been the thing I've been obsessed with lately. I've been like trying to learn enough about development that at least I could talk about it. At least I can understand it in theory and apply it to something good. But I think people are veering away from that.
Yeah, I think people are afraid of committing to some. And I tell I have a son, and he's going to college, and I tell him a lot, like, hey, dude, this is how life is. You can commit to it and do this for 5 years or 7 years or 8 years or 3 years or 10 years, and you could change your mind later and learn another skill in the process and then do that.
Yeah.
It's not set in stone, but for some reason, especially now with young people, I think there's this idea like, I don't want to commit because like I don't want to mess up my life. I want to still leave it all open-ended. Well, you can't live that way forever.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to build stability that way.
Yes. What I like is how the reason Peter Thiel talks about all that stuff is because he's saying we live in a world of, he calls it indefinite optimism, which is where we all feel like things are going to be fine.
Yeah.
No one's got the plan for how we're going to get there.
Sure.
And what he thinks is, better is definite optimism, which is things are going to be better because this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic book if anybody wants to pick that up.
Yeah, that
0
sounds
to 1.
interesting.
It's amazing. One of them life-changing books where you're like, I will never think about anything the same way. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't do more than a couple of those a year. Just your
I
brain
know
will
it's
never
too
settle
much.
down.
I know. Yeah. And then you become that guy that's having all these paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
Like, you're constantly
All the
talking about
time.
this new thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's me already.
Yeah.
That's me already. But you try to limit it. But I feel like that's so it's one of the things that I get obsessed with this whole blockchain conversation and decentralized internet and all that stuff. Everybody is trying to figure out how to make money doing it. But the way they're making money is that indefinite optimism way.
Sure.
It's just through investing. If you want to try to find out about like what's going to happen with the blockchain, the 99% of the information is about how to take this coin and stake it here and then buy that coin. And
Yeah,
then,
right.
But if everybody's just buying coins and moving it around, again, it's just the fugazi of just like it's just going to keep going. That's how the stock market works. It's like complete nonsense. So I'm trying to think of this great quote that's like, people want to make money, but no one knows how to make wealth.
Right.
And so that's what I've been obsessed with, is looking at the blockchain and being like, this is amazing technology. I'm curious about what can we do?
Yeah.
What can we build?
Yeah.
Because we could build a lot of shit. That's probably for a future episode, folks, because I'm sure we're running out of time. But that sense of this indefinite, like, well, we'll make money off of this.
Yeah.
It's like,
where
does that go from there?
Yeah. There's so much of it. It's almost a grift. But I think it's always been this way. I think there's always been things like this where there's real things and there's people. There's a very small percentage of people who have the perspective or the insight to look at things and go like, what can we do with this? Versus the rest that just see the output and go like, I want to make money on it.
Right.
How do I make money on it?
Right.
Like I'm going to put my money in it. I'm going to make money on it.
Yeah.
And they're not, those people never make money on it.
Right.
Usually they don't.
Yeah.
Some people do if they get in at the right time, but most people don't,
right.
But the people that are learning, like, what can we actually do with a distributed blockchain?
Right.
Like, wow, what does this actually mean?
Right.
Like, what are the implications of this moving forward?
Yeah.
Those are the people that are the pioneers.
I challenge someone to go find that information because it's hard.
Yeah.
You have to dig through the internet to find anything other than just buy this coin because of this.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. And it's like, if we assume Web 3 is going to be anything like Web 2, because most technologies that do this happen in the same sort of structure, it happened with Web 1 too, is what's going to happen is there are going to be some people who create things. There's going to be the Zuckerbergs. There's going to be, I'm forgetting the MySpace guy name. There's going to be those people who make something. There's going to be the Peter Thiels and the Elon Musks and all those guys. And then there's going to be a bunch of different people who are just looking to make the money off of this bubble.
Right.
We don't remember those people. We don't remember the venture capitalist from Web 2 who was there to
typically
invest.
You don't. Yeah, you remember the products, and
right?
He
had indefinite optimism. Something's going to work here. And the dudes who IPO'd before they had a product, all those things happened and they didn't work.
A lot of them happened. I remember in '99 there was all kinds of companies that came up, like Webvan and Peapod and grocery delivery. There were grocery delivery businesses and all this shit, and they were interesting ideas, but it just like. They were early. They were too early, and they IPO'd and they popped, and then all that shit went away, and now they're back with a vengeance.
Right.
But
But this, I think, what's scary to me is that I'm not seeing people trying to make things on this. I'm sure they're out there, but they're quiet, man.
Dude, everyone's. I get it, and I'm not hating on it because I get it, but I think it's tricky. Is everyone is like on the influencer TikTok. I'm gonna like do something interesting that's gonna get a bunch of eyeballs on me, and then that's how I'm gonna get rich. Which is like,
but everyone's doing that.
Yeah.
When has there ever been a great opportunity where everyone had the same plan and they're all gonna do it at the same time and it'll probably work out?
It never works.
It
dude.
won't work, man. Like even I've had this podcast for a minute now. Anybody who starts a podcast now with that weird optimism of like, this is how I'm going to make it. I'm going to tell you right now, like,
You're not
no,
gonna make it. Yeah,
we're flooded.
Right.
There's so much content. It's like doubling. I forget the stat, but it's like doubling ridiculously fast.
It's insane.
So if you want opportunity, look for it in places where people aren't looking for it. Like that's basic fundamentals of how opportunity works.
The wild thing and the interesting thing about what you guys are doing is that this is a podcast. You're right, it's a podcast, and there's bazillions of them out there now. But the real value you're getting, like you are getting value from the podcast and putting it out there, and the digital branding and the footprint. But the real value is the real life relationships and experiences and what's happening here in real life. That's where you're really getting the value.
People ask me that all the time. They're like, well, how do you make money off of the podcast or the Wild Hickson stuff that you guys do? Like, how do you guys earn from that? I'm like, I don't, bro.
I don't.
You want to know how I earn for it? Andrea made an amazing documentary. One of our professors from college watched it, reached out and said, I see you guys are getting into hunting. Come hunt on my land this fall.
There you go.
And we're going to go hunt on his land this fall.
That's how you...
You could assign a monetary value to that if you want to, but that's indefinite to me. That is fantastic.
I met Eddie Bravo through doing the podcast.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I met all the 10th Planet guys. That's how I became even... This building we're sitting in is a physical reality, but is a result from
Yes.
from those relationships. So yeah,
That's what you guys
I get
see.
it.
Yeah.
I get it. There was no in the beginning. I was like, I'm gonna make money, but I was like, there's no money here. Like nobody's paying you to live unless you're like, once in a while you hit it. Some people catch it, and good for them.
Yeah.
To be honest, like
Absolutely.
that's pretty rad. But at the same time, like there's still opportunities everywhere, man. Especially for people that want to work, and I don't mean work like you just get up and work, but people that are inquisitive and they want to expand and push their boundaries and learn.
Yeah.
There's so much now. There's so much.
It's endless. It's endless.
Yep.
Fuck, man. I like this talk.
Yeah, I had a good time.
I feel like I'm in weird headspace now, like in a good way.
Yeah.
It's going to affect my roles. I'm going to be like not thinking about rolling and just thinking about completely other things. Sometimes that's good, I feel.
Yeah, I think it is. Sometimes it's good to like roll on autopilot a little bit.
Yeah.
Just let your body do the work.
I know that's why a lot of guys get super high and then roll.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think
imagine personally. It sounds fucking awful, but
it's fun.
you know.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Yeah.
It sounds terrible to me. Not being conscious of what you're doing.
You're conscious. You're conscious.
Yeah, but like not. But yeah, kind of, I guess.
You process information. You feel it differently.
Well,
it's interesting.
It's a line I haven't crossed yet. I don't know about that.
You don't know about that?
No, I don't know, man.
Hey, man, it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. But I mean, I like drinking, and I don't think I could roll with a drink or if you drink.
We used to do that just as a we would do it once a year. We called it a spirit roll, and we would only invite a certain people because you're mixing alcohol and fighting.
Yeah.
And we would every round we'd do 5-minute rounds, and every round you took a shot.
Yeah, it's like a beer mile.
Yeah,
right?
and we would just keep going, and it was amazing how sloppy your jiu-jitsu gets.
Right.
And then after we usually had a sober dude watching. After, once it
got
got
a lifeguard.
we're like, he'd call it. Okay, guys. We're like, all right.
That's good. It's good to have a babysitter.
Yeah.
Your designated fight driver.
It's probably not super responsible, but
hey,
was fun
Andrew,
enough.
would you take some pictures? Oh man, see, Joe is the nicest guy here, and he always offers me a ride in because he's coming from even further than I am.
Oh shoot!
And I keep coming out at weird times to do stuff. It's super nice of him. Thank you, Joe. Okay, so to wrap up, there's assholes, and some of them are in jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
And it doesn't change them. It's not a magical thing that makes everyone better and
right.
cooler and whatever. But it makes the average person a lot cooler, and
I think so.
Changes your vibe. Also, what else did we hit? There's
we talked about how important pain is.
Pain is crucial.
Yeah.
No one has ethics. It would sound like old people when they say that.
Kids these days.
These kids.
Well, I think we touched on two things. We talked on like the moral compass idea, but then we also talked about just like the ability to make some good general human reasoning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just some good value decisions and to like do them and stick with them. And move forward. Yeah.
And like on that. Certain things have to be true. Like there is reality. Like there is objective reality, and that's fucking crucial.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing will end up making sense.
Yeah. Ultimately, I can't occupy the same space you can.
No.
So we know that that's one objective thing, and we can start there.
And jiu-jitsu, I think one of my favorite parts about it is it's full of objective truths.
Yeah.
You can't turn your knee that way.
Right. Go ahead and try, stupid. Yeah.
We have a way to test it, It will snap. When someone is like fake pushing in the air, McDojo lifestyle, it does not do anything against someone who trains legitimate martial arts. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool truths that happen in fighting. And the last thing is the blockchain is going to eat you all while you're trying to make money off Dogecoin. All right.
I agree.
From 10th Planet Nashville, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. I hope we get to do this again sometime because there's all the things I really like talking about.
So Rad, absolutely.
Thanks for that. Folks, I'm sure there's a new Wild Texans on the Hunt that is coming real soon because Andrew's putting together hunting and fishing from Missouri, so keep an eye out for that. She's also been working on the American Jiu-Jitsu project, so if you have an interest in jiu-jitsu and want to check that out, that's all about women in jiu-jitsu. We've met some amazing ones here in Nashville. Thank you to everyone in Nashville for having us. Thanks to 10th Planet Nashville. Thanks to Tennessee Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Thanks to Liberdage. Is it Liberdage Jiu-Jitsu?
I think
Liberdage.
So. Yeah.
And everybody, it's been a lot of fun hanging and rolling with y'all. Nashville, you've been a lot of fun. So thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you on the next episode.